Keanu Reeves tugged at the collar of his line cook uniform. The fabric stiff and scratchy against his neck. The smell of grease clung to his skin, while the hiss and pop of the grill provided a constant soundtrack in the cramped kitchen of Westville Diner. It had been 3 weeks since he walked in under a false name, flipping burgers with mechanical precision while pretending to be just another hire. Nobody knew he had bought the place. Nobody suspected that the man they called Rick had once walked red carpets and negotiated multi-million-dollar deals. Right now, he was just a new guy who burned the toast too often. "Order up for table 9. Rhonda's voice cut through the kitchen like a rusty knife, raspy from years of chain smoking and louder than necessary. She slammed the ticket onto the pass-through, not waiting for acknowledgement before disappearing back into the dining area. Keanu wiped his forehead with his sleeve and grabbed the plate. This wasn't how he imagined spending his post-Hollywood investment phase. When he bought Westville Diner, he didn't want to be the guy who just signed checks. His business advisor had suggested, "You want to know what you're really buying? Get behind the counter." He'd seen enough to know that most of the staff behaved differently when the boss wasn't looking. Big Joe, the head cook, cut corners when things got busy. Cal, the dishwasher, disappeared for smoke breaks longer than most people's lunches. Rhonda rounded bills up or down depending on how much she liked the customer, keeping the change either way. But the one who puzzled him most was Lena Cruz. He'd studied archaeology, and she was quiet, efficient, and unassuming. She worked like someone who had something to prove but never said why. She didn't gossip in the break room, didn't flirt with regulars for extra tips, and never once showed up late. Her tips, though, were always the highest. Still, she never bragged, never even smiled when she emptied them into her little black pouch at the end of her shift. Keanu caught himself staring as she glided past the kitchen window, a small black notebook peeking out from her apron pocket. He turned back to the grill just as Big Joe barked from the other side. "You going to flip those patties or write poetry about them?" "Got it," Keanu muttered, flipping them a second too late. Smoke curled upward as grease hissed and spat. He waved it away and scraped the grill clean, reminding himself, "Stay sharp. No one can know who you are." The rush wound down around 9:30. By 10:15, the last customer had paid, and the place was closing. Keanu stayed to scrub down the kitchen, sweat soaking through the undershirt he wore beneath a heavy cotton uniform. His back ached, his feet throbbed. He hadn't stood for 12 straight hours since his earliest film days. He welcomed the pain. It made him feel grounded, human. "Clock out, Rick." "I got the lockup," Big Joe grunted, already wiping down the counters. "Appreciate it, man," Keanu replied. The locker room was quiet and dimly lit when he stepped inside. He moved toward his cubby, eyes half-lidded with exhaustion. Lena's locker sat just to the left of his. He'd never seen it open. She was methodical, almost obsessively neat. Tonight, though, the door was slightly ajar. He paused, then reached to shut it more out of courtesy than curiosity. But as he did, his elbow bumped against something. A duffel bag, well-worn and half unzipped, slid off the bench and hit the floor with a heavy thud. Something inside shifted. Bills spilled out, crisp-bound bundles of them. A $100 bill stared up at him from the floor. Keanu froze, chest tightening. He knelt instinctively, scooping up the bundle, heart hammering in his ribs. The zipper had split just enough to show the rest. Not one, not two, but at least a dozen bundles of high-denomination bills stacked inside like bricks. Tens of thousands, easy, maybe more. He glanced at the door, empty. Breath held, he slid the bundle back in and zipped the bag shut, hands shaking. He placed it exactly where it had been, stepped back, and leaned against the locker to calm the storm inside his head. What the hell was Lena doing with that kind of money? Drugs? Skimming? Was she running something under the table? She always left fast after shifts, never hung around, and now this. The door swung open and Keanu nearly jumped out of his skin. "Forgot my phone," Cal mumbled, grabbing it from the bench without even glancing in Keanu's direction. As the dishwasher left, the room went still again. Keanu changed in record time. Out in the parking lot, a soft orange glow from the street lamp illuminated the night. Lena stood beneath it, not alone. A man in a hooded jacket, his face hidden in shadows, gestured at her. His movements were sharp, urgent. She nodded, reached into her coat pocket, and handed him something small. He nodded once, then melted into the dark beyond the edge of the lot. Keanu ducked behind his car, pretending to fumble for his keys. Lena walked past a moment later, duffel bag slung casually over her shoulder. She looked right through him. That night, sleep didn't come easy. Keanu lay in the guest room of the modest rental he'd taken near the diner, staring at the ceiling fan turning slowly overhead. His mind kept circling the same questions. Why would a waitress working doubles carry a bag of cash large enough to fill a safe deposit box? And who was that man in the parking lot? Friend? Dealer? Debt collector? By morning, the questions had hardened into suspicion. He arrived at the diner just before sunrise, the sky still tinted blue and purple. As he tied on his apron and slipped into Rick mode, the first thing he noticed was Lena already at her station. She moved like she always did, clean, quiet, efficient. If last night had rattled her, she didn't show it. He was about to say something when Rhonda appeared beside him, sipping from her chipped ceramic mug, eyes scanning the room like a hawk on a perch. "She's here early again," she muttered, nodding toward Lena. "Never misses a shift, that one." "You ever wonder why?" Keanu kept his voice neutral. "I figured she's just responsible." Rhonda snorted. "Or hiding something. I've been in this business 20 years. People don't keep their heads down that low unless they're protecting something underneath." Keanu said nothing, but his interest sharpened. "She keeps this little notebook, you know," Rhonda added, leaning in. "Writes stuff down all the time." "Who does that? Tips? Orders? Secrets?" He raised her brow. "Could be a journal. Or maybe she just likes math." Rhonda gave him a look. "She started picking up extra shifts about 3 months ago. Same time my tips started coming up short. Yesterday, I was off by $20 again." "You think she's skimming?" "I think where there's smoke." Rhonda trailed off, sipping her coffee like a woman who knew too much and enjoyed it. "Ask Cal. He said she took 3 phone calls during one shift last week out back. Thought it was shady." Keanu nodded, filing it away. He didn't want to jump to conclusions, but last night's bag, the shadowy meeting now Rhonda's missing cash patterns were forming. By lunch, whispers had turned to side eyes. Keanu wasn't the only one watching Lena now. She carried on as if nothing had changed, refilling coffee, reading regulars, sliding plates across tables with calm precision. But Keanu noticed something different in the way people responded to her. The usual easy smiles had tightened. Conversation slowed when she passed by. She caught it too. He could tell by the way her shoulders started rounding inward, the way her smile turned half-hearted. Boss would fire her if he knew. Keanu clenched his jaw. "Maybe it's a family emergency." Big Joe shrugged. "Every shift ain't my business. Just saying." Keanu followed her outside once, keeping his distance. She wasn't crying, just talking low, serious, and whoever was on the other end of the line wasn't a friend from the sound of it. He waited until the shift ended before checking the tip logs for the day. Something was off. Lena's tables had all paid in full, yet 2 of the other servers were short on tips again. That night, Cal cornered him in the dish pit. "You hear what Rhonda said about the notebook?" "Yeah," Keanu answered carefully. "She ain't wrong, man. I've seen Lena writing stuff down even when she's off. Like full pages. Ain't tips, ain't orders. Maybe she's a writer. Or maybe she's tracking what she takes," Cal said, shaking his head. "My cousin got caught up in some dealer scene a while back. Same kind of vibe. Quiet, careful, secret meetings, always carrying cash. They don't start off dirty, but once they're in, it's hard to get out." Keanu wanted to defend Lena, but the image of that duffel bag full of bills sat heavy in his memory. By Thursday, the kitchen buzzed with tension. Tommy, the weekend manager, stood by the register arguing with Rhonda about a family who left only $5 on a $60 tab. "They're regular," she insisted. "They always tip 20%. "I know because they always sit in my section." "You think Lena's skimming again?" Tommy asked under his breath. "I'm just saying it's the same pattern, same tables, same time frames, and now someone said she's working nights under a different name." Keanu's ears perked up. That was new. Later that evening, Lena served a table of businessmen with her usual grace. If she was running a side hustle, she hid it well. Her manner was consistent, polite, professional, not fake, just distant. When the rush slowed down, Keanu noticed she vanished into the bathroom for nearly 15 minutes. When she returned, her eyes were red-rimmed. He watched her tuck her phone away again after stepping out back once more. He'd seen enough. That night, he stood outside the diner, longer than usual, hands jammed into his jacket pockets, breath fogging under the amber glow of the parking lot light. He hadn't expected this kind of moral fog when he bought a diner. He thought the toughest decisions would be about inventory or payroll. But here he was, wondering if one of his employees, someone kind, quiet, and possibly brilliant, was involved in something illegal or worse, hurting the people around her. His instincts told him to trust her. His gut told him to confront her. And that bag of cash? It told him he didn't know her at all. Tomorrow, he'd find out for sure. He didn't sleep that night. Again, his thoughts chased themselves in circles until they dissolved into a restless haze. By morning, the decision was already made. No more guessing. No more shadows in the margins. He needed answers, and he needed them from her directly. It was early afternoon when he walked up the cracked concrete steps of Lena Cruz's apartment building. Modest, clean, but aging. Like most things in this neighborhood, he found her door easily. Unit 2B, second floor, left corner. The duffel bag hadn't left his mind. Neither had the man in the hoodie to calls or the short tips. It was all too much to ignore now. He raised his hand and knocked twice. The door opened just an inch at first. Lena's eyes met his through the gap, a flicker of recognition and something else, fear. "Rick," she said, her voice tight. "What are you doing here?" He took a breath. "We need to talk." For a long second she didn't move. Then quietly she stepped aside and let him in. The apartment was small but meticulously neat. No clutter, no extravagance, no signs of the wealth that might accompany someone hoarding thousands in cash. Just a small couch, a folding table, a modest bookshelf, and a few photos clipped to a corkboard near the kitchen. A faint scent of coffee and lavender hung in the air. Keanu looked around, then turned to face her. "I saw the money, Lena, in your locker." The duffel. Her expression didn't shift right away, but her shoulders stiffened. "I also saw you in the parking lot last week with that man." She sank onto the edge of the couch slowly, her fingers laced together, knuckles white. "You've been watching me." "What was I supposed to think?" she asked, her voice trembling. "And your locker was cleared out." "What was I supposed to think?" She closed her eyes. When she opened them again, her voice was different, hollow almost. "You think I'm stealing from the diner?" "I don't want to, but I found enough to ask the question." She looked up at him then, and what he saw stopped him cold, hurt, deep and raw. "You think I'm skimming tips and hiding it in a gym bag?" she said softly. He didn't answer, and that silence hurt more than anything he could have said. Finally, she stood and crossed the room, opened a drawer, pulled out a folder, then another, then another. "Sit," she said, pointing at the small table in the kitchen. He obeyed. She laid them out in front of him. Dozens of papers, letters, insurance denials, hospital estimates, medical forms with barcodes and diagnostic codes he couldn't make sense of, and a picture. It was an old photograph, slightly wrinkled at the corners, a man holding a saxophone, mid-laugh. Handsome, confident, alive. "His name is Miles," Lena said quietly. "Miles Bennett. Or at least that's what he goes by now." Keanu looked down at the smiling man in the photo. "Who is he?" "He used to be a musician, played jazz at the big clubs downtown, toured a little, got good until 6 years ago." She reached for another paper, pulled it gently forward, a fire report. "He lived above a diner. Faulty wiring started a blaze. He got trapped inside, suffered third-degree burns over 30% of his body. His hands, his face, everything he used to live for, gone." Keanu leaned back, hands resting on his thighs, the weight of it already starting to press into his chest. "He lost everything," Lena said. "His career, his confidence, his place to live. Ended up on the street." I found him last winter playing a busted saxophone outside the subway entrance, fingers barely moving. But the sound, Keanu. It was haunting, raw, beautiful. I sat on the curb and cried. She looked up at him now, her face stripped of defense. I've been helping him quietly, bringing him food, talking to clinics. I found a team at St. Joseph's Hospital that believes they can restore partial use of his hands, reconstruct his face, but it's not cheap. Insurance won't touch it, and charity programs are full. They told me I needed a deposit of at least $30,000 just to reserve his surgical window. Keanu gestured toward the duffel in his mind. So the cash? I've raised for him. I work nights at the Velvet Note under a different name, Alina. There's a tip jar by the mic stand. I tell his story. Some folks give what they can. Some give a lot. It all goes into that bag. Keanu's voice dropped. Why not tell anyone? Because he doesn't want charity. And, honestly, who would believe me? I work long hours. I keep to myself. People make their own stories up. You did. She walked over to a cabinet, retrieved a notebook from her apron, and placed it on the table. Every donation, every transaction recorded, verified. If you want to call a lawyer or an accountant, go ahead. I have nothing to hide. Keanu opened the notebook. Neatly dated entries, names, amounts, occasional little notes like for the music, where he gave me chills. A minute passed in silence. I'm sorry, he said quietly. Lena nodded, but she didn't look at him. Then his eyes landed on the photo again, and something shifted. That smile, that saxophone, there was something about it that tugged at a forgotten memory, a face younger, a photo long buried. He stared a little longer. Then he stood, walked toward the corkboard, and there, pinned next to Lena's work schedule, was another photo, a group shot for people by a lake. One of them, taller, holding a saxophone, grinned at the camera. Keanu stepped back, heart thudding. His voice came out in a whisper. Wait, I know him. Lena turned. What? Keanu pointed to the photo, his voice steadier now but low. That's not just some street musician. That's Miles Bennett, but it's also someone else. He looked at her, blinking. Lena, I think that's my uncle. For a long moment, neither of them moved. Keanu stood, staring at the photo, his hand still hovering in the air, like touching it might make the truth disappear. Lena's eyes darted from his face to the picture and back again. What do you mean your uncle? She finally asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Keanu stepped back from the corkboard, rubbing the back of his neck. I mean, I think his real name isn't Miles Bennett. I think it's Raymond Weston. Lena blinked. Wait, Weston? As in your name? He nodded slowly, his throat dry. He was my dad's younger brother. I haven't seen him since I was a kid. Maybe 7, maybe 8. He used to show up at family barbecues with his saxophone slung across his shoulder, always with a joke or story. I remember he smelled like cologne and jazz records. He sat down again carefully, as if the air had suddenly grown heavier. There was a fight Christmas. My dad caught him stealing, I think pills or money, maybe both. There were always whispers about him, about addiction. That night, my dad told him to leave. Said he was done with him. Told us Raymond wasn't family anymore. Lena crossed her arms, still trying to connect the man she knew with the man Keanu was describing. Keanu looked down at his hands. We were told he overdosed 2 years later. That's what my dad said. No funeral, no calls, just silence, like he never existed. Lena sat slowly across from him, her expression softened. Keanu, I don't think.